if you can activate more than just one area of the brain when a child's learning, their retention is going to be so much better.
Yeah, that's right.
But then even it's so good to know what the milestones are and the markers are, even when you're looking at a child, to give them referrals to other places, because I'm taking a case history with a child and I'm asking them, you know, when did they sit? When did they crawl? When did they walk? When did they stand or, you know, back roll over? Yeah. Because I'm trying to look at their trajectory of development and if that's sort of been on track or, you know, and that sort of then helps us with our speech and language assessment.
Well, and there's research that links the onset of walking and the onset of language.
Yeah, exactly.
It's using this like same regions of the brain.
Exactly.
We are child development obsessed business besties and mums, and we're here to spill all our secrets.
We have a combined 30 years experience working with children, and each episode we will bring you up-to-date research and evidence-based strategies to set your children up to thrive.
I'm Lizzy Dawson, Australian exercise physiologist.
I'm Emily Mackey, Australian speech pathologist.
And this is the Move, Talk, Thrive podcast. So today, Em and I are going to explore our 10-year friendship, how we've bonded over business and babies, and how this podcast has actually come about. We are here. We are ready. Let's go. So how did we meet, Em?
I remember we met at a business conference, and I think you had already been to the conference before.
Yeah.
And I came for the first time. I was so scared because that was my first time of ever doing anything in business.
Yeah.
And I had just been running my business for like 2 years. And walking into a room, I just thought everyone was very established in business, and they were really like amazing with business, and I just felt like totally out of my depth. I felt like a fish out of water. But it was a room where I was one of the only speechies as well. Yeah. So that was very different. I'd always previously been in speechy circles. But
so anyway, that's probably why you felt like that.
Yeah.
Because I remember connecting with you and going, oh my gosh, this girl knows what she's doing. Like you
I must have
forced to be reckoned with.
Been putting on fake confidence. I must have had a lot of fake confidence because I didn't feel like that on the inside.
I think everyone.
Anyway, we met and we connected instantly.
Yeah.
But I think it was because a lot of the people in the room were working with adults, which you were at the time.
Yeah.
But you had a passion for children and pediatrics. Yeah. And so we got talking about that.
Yeah. And I think I connected with you because I was like, she's already working with kids. She might be able to teach me some things about the business of working with kids. Because at that point, Kids Heart Pilates was just a passion project. I was just doing it for fun. It wasn't really making any money. It was just, something on the side.
I think also naturally we just bonded together as well, didn't we? Like our personalities and whatnot.
Yeah, with Anne's as well.
Yeah, shout out to Anna.
Yeah. Yeah, because we just got talking and I think then we were also grouped together. So we started Voxering. So I don't know if anyone's got the app Voxer, but we Voxer every day.
Yeah. That's how everyone always asks me, how do you keep in contact with someone when you're so busy, you're running a business, you've got kids, and you both don't have time to just sit down and make the phone call?
Yeah.
I was like, we don't do phone calls.
No.
We've
always done
Voxer.
2 phone calls. One was this morning about the eyelashes, getting our makeup done. And the other was when I called you 2 weeks ago when you sent me flowers for the 10-year business anniversary. I was like, oh, this is weird. We're talking on the phone.
I know. But side note, congratulations to Lizzy. 10 years in business.
Thank you. And to you in a couple of
coming up
months. Yeah. So we started business at the same time. So we're kind of like on the same trajectory together, I think.
And so we both didn't know each other when we started our businesses, but then we sort of also bonded that we'd had business for the same time and we're going through the same things together at the same time. And then that's why we kept contact, because you kept my sanity.
Yes.
For a lot of, business is very up and down, and then you're also mastering yourself professionally and clinically. Yeah. So it's just one big, huge roller coaster.
It is, yeah.
And then you throw kids and marriage. We've been through.
Yeah. We were kind of similar life stages, really. Yeah. Like you were just behind me.
You always went through everything. She had her first baby a year before me, so then I was just learning from you. And then you got
because I just downloaded and you were like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And I'm like, damn it, why did anyone tell me to do that?
So good. But when we first met, remember I came out to your you were doing a Kids Heart Pilates class in a school, and it was at that time, we both didn't really know it then, but I saw you run a class and I said to you, we could put so much language into this with the exercises that you're doing. Yeah. And it was sort of like, to me, an off the cuff comment. Like I was like, oh, you know, we could just do this. Or you could do this. And then it's sort of, now we're here actually trying to put things together.
And, you know, I think that was a catalyst in me going all in with Kids Heart Pilates to get that sort of like reference or support or encouragement from someone who had a really successful pediatric business, and to go, oh, wow, this is actually really good and you could do A, B, and C with it. I was like, oh, wow, maybe this is actually something. And then I went into having babies, which took me out of my business because I put on managers, and then I could actually focus on Kids Heart Pilates. And then I guess we've just kind of done that peer mentoring across all of the things, really.
And just encouraging each other. I just think that has been the biggest booster. Or like you said, like, you know, you think, is this a good enough idea? Should I do this? Or, you know, this is very out of my comfort zone. And just to have someone there to be like, no, you've got this. Like, I know you. Yeah. You're good at this, or you could do this. And then that's from a personal point of view, but then professionally. So we were like, oh, you know, I then started incorporating movement to help my children in my therapy sessions. And
and I've got a whole module on language. And I interviewed you for that module, and I have interviewed you in my course membership twice now, hey?
Yes.
And we've talked about how aligned movement and language is.
Yeah, it's like a no-brainer.
I know.
And when it's a no-brainer when you're thinking about the whole child, which is what we both have always done, and why we connected. Yeah. But you can't just treat a child with their speech and language issues. Yeah. There's always, you know, the movement to help, or the fine motor, gross motor, or just that general movement. There's, you know, psychological aspects. There's emotional aspects. There's the family. There's their preschool. It's a whole. You're not just treating that child that you see. Yeah. You know, it's a whole. I'm looking at our child holistically. Yeah. So it just is so natural that, of course, we would work together and do things together, because you can't help a child as thoroughly by yourself as what we could with each other's skills.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And I think, you know, what I've always said is that exercise is an engagement superpower, because you're engaging the whole child. You're engaging all the systems when they're moving. And so the speeches that I talk to are like, oh, that's really good, because, you know, you're trying to reach your outcomes in your therapy, and to be able to engage them through movement is quite powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. The brain works together. It's not it is segmented, but if you can activate more than just one area of the brain when a child's learning, their attention is going to be so much better.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think even if you're looking at that learning, how you get the best out of a child, but then even it's so good to know what the milestones are and the markers are, even when you're looking at a child, to give them referrals to other places, because, you know, I'm taking a case history with a child and I'm asking them, you know, when did they sit? When did they crawl? When did they walk? When did they stand, or, you know, back roll over? Yeah. Because I'm trying to look at their trajectory of development, and if that's sort of been on track, or, you know, and that sort of then helps us with our speech and language assessment.
Well, and there's research that links the onset of walking and the onset of language.
Yeah, exactly.
It's using this like same regions of the brain.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's actually quite a lot of research. And I think from when we first had conversations 10 years ago through to now, the amount of research that has come out, is
insane.
Huge.
Insane.
Yeah.
How do you keep up? But yeah.
I know. And you know, the other thing I think that's been really amazing about us keeping our conversation, because we just basically keep a conversation going. Like we've kept a conversation going for 10 years.
But it can be the same conversation over 3 days because you're so busy.
Or it can be multiple different conversations.
It's like this is a voice message about
in relation
kids.
to, yeah.
Or I was asking you about Isabel's legs.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Isabel had she was breech, and so she had weaker hips, or their hips weren't aligned, and so we were going through that with her at the hospital, and if she needed a brace. And so I would have a conversation with you about Isabel.
Yeah.
And then you would have a conversation with me about
Flynn.
Yeah, and his speech. And then we'd then be having a separate conversation about business or a separate conversation about our holidays.
Yes.
It would all tie into one.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're going through the same thing. So it's been really nice. And I think, you know, some of my ideas have come about from having those conversations. And I think with Voxer, it's really interesting because it's not a back and forth in real time. It's like I'm going to talk, so you can kind of, you know, get everything out that you want to get out. And I know I've been walking and I'm like, oh, actually, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm going to do A, B, and C. That's a great idea. Like, so those ideas actually come out, and it's almost like kind of self-therapy in a way.
Verbal processing.
Yeah.
That's how I like to process. With my husband, Michael, I call him Mackie. So if I refer to him as Mackie in the podcast, that's who everyone knows who I'm talking about. But he likes to think through things in his head and then say, when he then says it, that's his solution. Whereas for me, I'm like, no, this is not my solution. I need to like brainstorm and brain dump and verbally process things. So then I come to my solution. So that's basically Voxer.
Yeah.
It's saving our husband's sanity. That's what it's doing.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Voxer. Anyway, if you don't have Voxer, it's a great way to start connecting with somebody, because we all know that it can be hard these days to make phone calls if you've got little ones.
And align time. We don't have to align time because we just send a Voxer when it suits us. And then you listen when it suits you, you know, like it's it's great that way.
And that's really how we've built our relationship. Obviously then we did have, when we were doing our business coaching together, we were seeing each other quarterly.
Yeah.
And then we would generally see each other once or twice a year.
Yeah. We've done the Allied Health Awards a couple of times.
Yeah. But then when you throw kids in there and there was COVID, people say, how are you such great friends?
Yeah.
It's like someone's walking with you on your journey.
Yeah.
And you then, you just learn so much from each other and grow.
And get ideas from each other, because we kind of think about things a little bit differently and we're reading different books. So we always recommend books to each other. So it's kind of that constant support and, ideas that we're throwing around.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will come to nothing, and sometimes it comes to something. And I think it's been like, what I've loved is seeing your journey and seeing like the impact of those daily habits of, you know, your spiritual faith and your reading and your prayer, and, you know, and how that has filtered through into the culture of your business and meeting your team. You know, I know some of your girls, and just seeing that whole journey is really nice.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It's been really special, I think.
And if we're talking about, like, we often then would throw ideas around of what we want to do. And so obviously our podcast, this podcast has come about from Voxer.
Yes.
And us,
because we were like, what can we do together? How can we do something?
We've been talking for years about how we could do something together
while living so far away from each other.
And, you know, all the other things. It was in both of our maternity leaves that we then started to look at this second.
Yeah.
It's a second business, would you say? But it all ties together.
Yeah.
So in my maternity leave, I started looking at the Successful Speechy Academy and focusing on preschool language.
Yeah.
And created that online course. That was also through COVID.
Yeah.
But then I
did my course in maternity leave.
Yes. So it's like maternity leave also was
golden opportunity.
For us.
Yeah.
Yes. And even that could have been from talking to each other.
Yeah, and just the space.
We were both on maternity leave.
Yeah.
And going, what can we create? When that, I don't think, once you get over, like, maternity leave is no joke. Once you get over that massive, overwhelming period where you feel a bit more settled with your baby, that's when we sort of.
Yeah, and you get into a bit of a schedule.
We're doing things. But a big thing for me, I think, I don't know, you share for you, but I was like, I don't want people to steal my ideas.
Yeah.
And so,
oh mate, I didn't share I didn't market Kids Heart Pilates for 8 years because I was scared someone was going to steal it.
Yeah, we shouldn't laugh. We both experience it. It's a very real feeling. Yes, it's a very real feeling. But what flipped it? So for me, I was like, because that was the same with me in my clinic. I was like, I know that we have awesome mentoring and professional development in-house, but this is what makes my clinic unique. I don't want to share this with the world. And it was through that time when I was on maternity leave, you have a little bit more time to think.
Yeah.
Again, this is once the baby's settled and you're in a nice routine. This is not once like your baby's been born. But, around that 6-month mark or more, I was like, why am I holding what I could use to help others all around the world? Why am I holding that close? Like, is that threat bigger than the impact that I could make?
That's right.
And it was like going to that mindset shift.
Yeah.
Which is an abundance mindset shift. If you don't have an abundance mindset, what do you have? A lack mindset. Yeah.
That was me.
We all naturally, I think we all naturally have that in some shape or form, like to a degree.
Yeah.
And we feel a little bit insecure to share because it might get stolen or whatnot. But I remember having Evie and just thinking, like, there's so much out there.
Yeah.
There's so many people who need help. There's so many children. You know, it's really doing a disservice to not share how to help others. Yeah. But also, if someone is going to come along and copy you, who cares?
Exactly.
Who cares? It doesn't matter. Because
it's flattery.
It means you're doing a good job. I mean, it is easier said than done.
Yeah.
But I was like, there is enough for everyone. And that's the same perspective that I have with my clinics.
Yeah.
Like, there are enough clients to be helped.
Yeah.
We don't need to hoard the clients for ourselves. If we can actually if we don't have space to see a client, they can go to another practice and I'm not threatened by that.
Yeah.
Because it's about coming back to your why and what your purpose is, which is to help the child.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say it's when you start to really connect to your purpose and why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that shift takes place at that time.
Which it did for both of us. Yeah, that's when we then went, right, we're going to, for me, like the first big step was create that Instagram account and Mackie Speechy.
Yeah.
And then, create a program, online program that I have for preschool language.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of
marketing Kids Heart Pilates.
And now if anyone is listening to this and knows me right now, they're like, what, you were scared to do marketing? Because I literally do so much marketing. It's embarrassing. But I have people that help me do it because I can't do it, like major imposter. But I've got people that will do it. Like Katie, my business manager, she's like a marketing goddess. Like she just gets it out there. But, that's probably a whole nother episode. But I was going to say, like, just that transition from into purpose and why, it's almost like a transition from taking it away of being about you and being worried about you to going, okay, bigger impact. What's the bigger impact? What's the bigger picture here? This is not about me and whether I look silly and whether someone's going to steal my ideas. This is about the kids who need to be helped. Like, we know that. The stats are insane. And that's where that collaboration is so powerful. And not trying to do everything yourself and making these alignments. And I think that's something that I really want to share with this podcast is how powerful these alignments with other allied health professionals are, and not to be scared to talk to other allied health professionals.
Absolutely. And even in your own discipline as well, like not feeling threatened or not feeling like someone's going to take what you have. They might. But if they are, it's because they've admired what you've done.
Yeah.
And whether they do it ethically or unethically, that's on them.
Yeah.
But it's basically then going, well, we can actually help more children.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. And it's because we now have our own children, so it's become even more important to us, even more critical to us. Like before I had children, I was a speechy for 10 years. And I knew it, but it was theory in my head. And I saw it in a session, but to actually understand the extent of how, for me, like language and communication, the extent of how important it is. I've only really seen that in having my own children, being with them every moment of the day. It's just that the extra revelation to go, oh my goodness, this is so important.
Well, it's a perspective shift, isn't it? Because you're taking the perspective of the parent, and you know, like what you went through with Isabel, like you know something like not like major, and I know I felt it with the speech with Flinny, like it's quite triggering. So to get that perspective from the parent, like when you're helping children, you're not just helping the children, you're helping the family as well. Like it is a big impact. I remember talking to one of my mentees recently, and she was saying she was getting feedback from one of her parents of a little autistic boy, and he's like, oh, now he doesn't run out onto the road. And I'm like, as a parent, that's like goosebumps, like as a parent, that's massive. So I think that perspective shift that we've had and going through experiencing motherhood and babies and having children that not super complex needs, because we're really lucky, but even just something small, we know there's significant impact, and we know early intervention, and we know the power of and the opportunity and the freedom that health presents kids.
Yeah, it's that functional impact. You see it every day. It's so important. And that's literally why we were then spurred on to do something even more together, create this podcast.
Yeah.
Because if we can help more parents out there, more educators, more speech therapists, EPs, and the broader allied health community to understand their children, to work together, to see their child as an holistic opportunity.
Yes.
And have that abundance mindset where we can collaborate without fear or threat. That's what our goal is, and that's why we were like, we have to do this podcast.
Yes.
No matter how uncomfortable it makes us feel or pushes us out of our comfort zone, like even to record together, you know, our husbands have our children and all of that, but that why is bigger than all of those little things, those little logistics.
Yeah.
And so as you're listening along and hopefully loving our content and our episodes, we really hope that that's what you get out of what we share. And you can learn yourself.
Yeah.
And you can see your children for the potential that they have, not the problems that you see when they come in, what you're treating, but how they can be when we do our therapies, but then collaborate together and bring that
whole child
to front of mind. Yeah. And that's why we're here.
Yeah. Well said. Like, absolutely. I'm so excited to keep this conversation going and share our journey and what we've learnt along the way.